10-year-old Armin wasn't a troublemaker. He didn't steal, didn't lie, and never missed school. In fact, he was known in his neighborhood for his curiosity, always asking questions about how things worked, especially locks, engines, and anything with moving parts. His father, a humble locksmith, ran a tiny repair shop in a narrow lane of Old City. Armin would often sit by his side, watching him fix jammed locks and duplicate keys with steady hands and quiet focus. That quiet life shattered one rainy evening. Armin had gone to deliver a repaired padlock to a local warehouse. The gate was ajar, and inside he found two men arguing, one of them holding a bag full of something heavy. Seconds later, police sirens wailed. The men fled. Armin, confused and frozen in place, was the only one left when the officers stormed in. In the bag? Stolen government documents and cash, evidence in a high-profile corruption case. He tried to explain. They didn't listen. Within days, headlines labeled him a young criminal prodigy working for smugglers. Despite his age, despite the flimsy evidence, Armin was sentenced to a juvenile correctional facility. But this was no ordinary center. It was Blackridge, a notorious prison built for hardened youth offenders, located deep in a remote forest, surrounded by barbed wire fences, trained dogs, and a wall twice his height. Blackridge wasn't a place for children. The prison loomed like a decaying monster, its concrete skin cracked, its insides cold and soulless. The air stank of dampness, bleach, and fear. Armin was thrown into a cell with two older boys who had eyes like stone. They didn't speak much, but their silence was more terrifying than any threat. The guards were no better, hardened men who treated the inmates like insects. Rules were enforced with batons. Meals were stale bread and watery soup. No visitors, no letters, just survival. Every day began with a blaring siren at dawn, followed by forced labor, cleaning sewage drains, moving bricks, or scrubbing floors with bare hands. Talking back meant isolation in the box, a pitch-black windowless room no bigger than a closet. Rumors said kids came out of it changed, or didn't come out at all. Armin tried to stay invisible, but it was hard not to stand out when you were the youngest among dozens of teenage inmates. He was mocked, bullied, shoved, and threatened. At night, he would curl up on his thin mattress and press his fingers against the cold wall, pretending he was back home, feeling the smooth brass of his father's tools. What terrified him most wasn't the violence. It was the thought that he might never leave. He started counting the days, not toward his release, but toward an idea. Armin had a mind built for puzzles, and Blackridge, despite its brutality, was full of them. He watched. He learned. He studied guard patterns, memorized the daily routines, listened for the clicks and clanks of doors locking and unlocking. Every sound told a story. Every shadow held a clue. He didn't belong here. He never did. And if no one would rescue him, he would have to find his own way out. This prison may have been built to crush boys like him, but it had never met someone like Armin. The days blurred into weeks. Armin marked them silently, using a tiny scratch on the underside of his metal bed frame, his secret calendar. Each tick represented another day of survival, and perhaps another step closer to freedom. It was during one of those endless mornings in the prison yard that Armin met Faizan, a quiet 17-year-old with sharp eyes and a limp. Unlike the others, Faizan didn't tease or threaten him. Instead, he observed Armin, how he moved carefully, how he kept his eyes open and his mouth shut. One day, when Armin helped lift a heavy crate during their labor shift, Faizan leaned in and whispered, "You don't belong here, do you?" Armin froze. No one had ever said that aloud. "No," he replied quietly. Faizan nodded. "Then stop just surviving. Start thinking." From that moment, a silent partnership was born. Faizan didn't speak much, but when he did, Armin listened. The older boy had been at Blackridge for 3 years and knew every corner, every weakness, every broken camera, and every lazy guard. He had dreamed of escaping once, but after an attempt failed, he limped for life. Now, he had given up, except something in Armin reignited the spark. "You've got the mind for it," Faizan said one evening as they cleaned the kitchen floor. You see the system. I'll show you the map if you've got the nerve. That night, while the others slept, Faizan drew a rough sketch on the dusty wall behind the kitchen cabinet. A crude layout of Blackridge. It showed guard posts, patrol routes, supply tunnels, and one forgotten maintenance shaft that hadn't been used in years. Armin studied it like scripture. Over the next few weeks, Armin began preparing. He kept his eyes down, but his senses wide open. He watched how the keys on the warden's belt jangled in a pattern. He noticed how one of the guards always left his flashlight in the locker room. He memorized every footstep and shift change like a dance routine. Slowly, silently, he began collecting small items, bits of wire from the workshop, a broken spoon handle, a loose nail, even a piece of glass hidden in his sock. He was building something piece by piece, a lockpick kit of his own. But nothing ever went smoothly in Blackridge. One afternoon during a surprise cell inspection, a guard found the glass shard hidden behind Armin's mattress. Suspicion flared. Armin was dragged to the box, the dreaded isolation chamber. For 2 days, he sat in pitch darkness. No food, no warmth, just silence. The fear clawed at his mind, but he gritted his teeth and whispered his escape plan to himself over and over again, as if saying it enough times would keep it alive. When he was released, weak and pale, Faizan was waiting. "Still want to try?" he asked. Armin didn't hesitate. More than ever. With time running short, rumors swirled that Armin might be transferred to a stricter facility. He picked up the pace. Faizan distracted guards when needed. Armin practiced his lockpicking at night with makeshift tools. One night, he managed to open a small cabinet in the infirmary in under 30 seconds. It wasn't much, but it proved to him that his plan wasn't just a dream. Then came the hardest part, getting access to the maintenance shaft. It was behind the generator room, an area off limits and guarded. The only way in was through a tunnel that passed under the mess hall. Timing had to be perfect, distractions flawless, and courage unshakable. Faizan placed a hand on Armin's shoulder. "This place breaks people, but not you. You're not escaping just for yourself anymore. You're escaping for all of us." Armin nodded, eyes sharp. The escape wasn't just an idea now, it was a plan, and it was almost ready. The night of the escape was moonless, a curtain of darkness draped across the sky, as if the world itself had agreed to help Armin vanish. Every part of the plan had been rehearsed in Armin's mind 100 times, each step, each second, each sound. Faizan had done his part, causing a fight in the yard that morning, which led to tightened security near the dorms and loosened it around the generator room. A perfect misdirection. Armin's heart pounded as he slipped silently from his cell. He had managed to unlock the door with his handmade picks, barely a click, barely a sound. He wore the torn, oversized uniform of a janitor, stolen piece by piece over several days. His small frame helped him pass unnoticed in the shadows. The corridor was empty. He hugged the wall, counted the steps, and ducked behind stacked crates. The security cameras had a blind spot, a 3-second window every minute when they turned just enough to miss a section of the hallway. He'd timed it perfectly. 3, 2, 1. He ran. The generator room door creaked slightly, but the hum of the machines masked it. Armin slipped inside, his breath held tight in his chest. Behind the largest unit, hidden under a rusted panel, was the tunnel entrance Faizan had told him about, a forgotten maintenance shaft that hadn't been used in years. He pried it open. The tunnel was narrow, just wide enough for his small body to crawl through. Dust choked the air and cobwebs clung to his face. It felt like he was being swallowed by the earth, but he moved forward, inch by inch, using his elbows and knees. Halfway through, his hand hit something cold, a tripwire. He froze. If he had crawled even a little faster. Carefully, he traced the wire with trembling fingers and found its source, a crude alarm, likely set by guards who still remembered the old tunnel. Armin took out a piece of metal from his pocket and slowly jammed the trigger so it wouldn't release when touched. It took all his focus and all his nerve. One wrong move, and everything would be over. He held his breath and slipped past it. At the tunnel's end was a grate, sealed shut with rusted bolts. Armin twisted them one by one, his fingers raw, until the last bolt fell with a soft clink. He pushed the grate aside and peeked out. Wilderness. A thick line of trees stood just beyond the prison's electric fence. The fence itself buzzed faintly, but Faizan had told him of a spot where the current was weakest, where an old metal pipe grounded it just enough. That spot was 15 feet to the left. He sprinted. Halfway there, a shout rang out behind him. A guard on patrol had spotted the moving grate. "Stop!" Armin didn't stop. A loud bang echoed. A warning shot, maybe. His feet barely touched the ground. He reached the fence, yanked out the pipe, and shoved it into place. Sparks flew. The buzz quieted for a second, just long enough. He climbed. Hands bleeding, knees scraping metal, he pulled himself over and dropped into the wet grass on the other side. Freedom. He didn't stop running until the lights of Blackridge were distant pinpricks behind him. Days later, he stumbled into a village and collapsed near a roadside tea shop. A kind old man took him in. With help, Armin contacted a local reporter and told his story, not just his escape, but the beatings, the hunger, the truth about Blackridge. His story spread like wildfire. Investigations began. The prison was exposed. Guards were questioned. Faizan, his only friend, was transferred to a better facility. Letters from lawyers and human rights groups began pouring in. Arman, the boy who had once been labeled a criminal, was now a symbol of courage. He had escaped not just from a prison, but from a lie, and he had lit the way for others still trapped in the dark.